ay masapat na nasa ay narating mag-ibig. Sikap na ang tiwala sa dilim, mabasa ka, magkapatid, sa hamon ng buhay, di ba magkakita? Ako ang iyong kasama, kaibigan, sa ating kapapatayan. Magkasa ka, magkapatid, naman na buhay at magpapawakilan. Tayo ay magkasama, kaibigan, sa ating kapapatayan. Magkasa ka tayo, kapatid, magkasa ka, magkapatid, magkasa ka, magkapatid, magkasa ka, magkapatid. MSB, Kape at Balita sa Umaga. Hatid sa inyo ni Kuya Dong. Magandang umaga po mga kasangga, mga kasama. May 2, 2023, araw ng Martes. Welcome po sa ating daily dose of news dito sa MSB, Kape at Balita sa Umaga. Naghahatid po ng mga nagbabagang balita at kaganapan sa loob at labas ng ating bansa sa loob lamang po ng 30 minutos. Pero bago po natin simulan ang ating pagbabalita, samahan niyo po muna ako sa isang panalangin bago natin simulan ang umagang ito. Sa ngalan ng Ama at ng Anak at ng Espiritu Santo. Amen. Mahal naming lumikha, maraming salamat sa bagong araw na ipinagkaloob niyo sa amin, sa mapayapang gabing lumipas, at sa patuloy na pagbuhos ng inyong mga biyaya sa amin at sa aming bayan. Naway ipagkaloob mo pa sa amin ang lakas at tibay ng loob upang mapaglabanan ang kasamaan at matili po kami sa paggawa ng mabuti sa kapwa at pagsunod sa iyong itinurong tamang landas. Lahat ng gawa namin, inaalay namin sa iyong anak na si Jesus na aming Panginoon. Amen. Sa ngalan ng Ama at ng Anak at Espiritu Santo. Amen. At sa ating top news for today, May 2, 2023, Tuesday. Biden to reassure Marcos as China tensions flares. Washington. U.S. President Joe Biden and Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. will agree on Monday to new guidelines for stronger military cooperation, U.S. officials said, underscoring a dramatic turnaround in U.S.-Philippine relations over the past year. The guidelines focus on military coordination across land, sea, air, and space, and uh, and cyberspace. While the U.S. administration will also transfer three C-130 aircraft and look to send additional patrol vessels to the Philippines. Biden will also reaffirm a 1951 mutual defense treaty that calls for the United States to act in the event of an armed attack on the Philippine military, the official said in a briefing call for reporters. The summit is the centerpiece of a 4-day U.S. visit by Marcos that started on Sunday, the first by a Philippine president in more than 10 years. Marcos became president last year and has sought warm relations with both the United States and China, who are vying for influence in the Asia-Pacific region. Under Rodrigo Duterte, Marcos' predecessor, U.S. relations soured as he turned the Philippines sharply away from its former colonial ruler and built closer ties with China. But with many Filipinos frustrated by China's actions in the South China Sea, including the harassing of Philippine ships and fishermen in parts of the sea that both countries claim, popular support has grown for a tougher stance toward Beijing. Worriness about China has only increased recently. A reported comment last month by Beijing's ambassador to Manila that the Philippines should not support Taiwan's independence if you care about the 150,000 overseas Filipino workers of Filipino origin who live there was viewed as a veiled threat, a U.S. official said. Some of the steps that China has taken have concerned Marcos, probably even surprised him, said one senior Biden administration official. He has strong desire to work closely with both countries, but finds himself in a situation that the steps that China's taking are deeply concerning. We will reaffirm our commitment to fostering our long-standing alliance as an instrument of peace and as a catalyst of development in the Asia-Pacific region, Marcos said before leaving for the trip on Sunday. He later told reporters on his plane China had agreed to discuss fishing rights in the South China Sea and also that he would not allow the Philippines to become a staging post for military action. Philippines central to U.S. plans. Washington sees the Philippines as key to any effort to counter an invasion of Taiwan by China, which claims the island as its own territory. Manila recently agreed to allow the United States access to 4 more of its military bases under an enhanced defense cooperation agreement, but the two sides have not said what U.S. assets will be stationed at those. Experts say Washington considers the Philippines a potential location for rockets, missiles, and artillery systems to counter a Chinese amphibious assault on Taiwan. Biden has invested in courting Marcos, who still faces a U.S. court judgment connected with $2 billion of plundered wealth under his father's rule. Washington helped Marcos' father flee into exile in Hawaii during a 1986 People Power uprising, and as head of state, his son is immune from U.S. prosecution. Biden was the first official to reach out to Marcos after his election and has made strengthening economic and military ties in the Indo-Pacific region a cornerstone of his foreign policy. Ahead of the summit, U.S. Democratic Representatives Jan Schakowsky and Rosa De Lauro led 13 U.S. lawmakers in a bipartisan letter to Biden, calling on him to raise what they called the worsening human rights crisis in the Philippines. In a statement, they said there were well-documented violations under Duterte, but recent reports showed ongoing impunity. They cited reports from the Karapatan Human Rights Alliance of 17 extrajudicial killings, 165 illegal arrests from July to December 2022, and a total of 825 political prisoners. The exact contours of a U.S.-Philippine alliance in a wartime scenario remain sketchy, including the level of access and cooperation at Philippine bases. The new Philippines bases the U.S. gained access to last month include 3 facing Taiwan and 1 near the Spratly Islands in the South China Sea. China said this was stoking the fire of regional tensions, and Washington should take no role in a conflict far away from its shores. Biden will also take economic cooperation steps, including sending a trade and investment mission to Manila, supporting the rollout of 5G telecommunications technology, launching public-private financing for critical minerals and smart power grid development, new bilateral discussions on labor issues, and support for airport security, maritime safety, and the Philippines' healthcare industry. The Marcos visit is part of a stepped-up U.S. Indo-Pacific diplomacy. Biden hosted South Korea's president last week and heads to Japan this month, for the Group of Seven meeting, and to Australia for a Quad summit with leaders of Japan, India, and Australia. Both meetings are expected to focus heavily on China. On to the next headline news. Look, worker groups converge in Mendiola to hold Labor Day protests by Faith Argosino and John Eric Mendoza of Inquirer.net. Workers trooped to Mendiola on Monday, May 1st, to air grievances about the problems besetting the common laborer for years, such as unlivable wages and practice of contractualization. More than 10,000 demonstrators, including bukluran ng manggagawang Pilipino, BMT, Kilusang Mayo Uno, KMU, and the Trade Union Congress of the Philippines, along with other workers' confederation and groups, gathered in Welcome Rotonda in Quezon City before marching to Mendiola Peace Arch in Manila. The caravan of Labor Day rallies started from Welcome Rotonda, gathering with other protesters along Maceda Street and Ramon Magsaysay High School before marching to Mendiola. Workers marched the streets of España Boulevard, armed with their placards and banners, occupying the entire southbound of Manila's main artery. Demonstrators held placards calling for a national minimum wage of 33,000 pesos and the end of the practice of contractualization, among other demands. Manila Police District deployed 1,100 police personnel within the area to ensure public safety. Cops guarding the site also held placards recognizing workers' efforts and wishing them a happy Labor Day. After their program in Mendiola, the groups marched the U.S. Embassy on Rojas Boulevard to protest President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr.'s second visit to the U.S. For our next headline news, negligence, corruption lead to fire sale of DepEd laptops. Written by Ryan Macasero and Bones Magsambol for Rappler. This is a two-part report, reading the first update of part 1. At a glance, public schools reported not receiving laptops they were supposed to get during lockdowns. Laptops procured by the Department of Education for public schools ended up being sold in retail stores and on Facebook Marketplace. Former DepEd Undersecretary Alain Pascua, who chaired the Bids and Awards Committee, says the problems arise from the implementation of the contract that got caught in the middle of the transition of administrations. First of two parts. Negligence and apparent corruption at the Department of Education under the Duterte administration caused laptops intended for public school teachers to end up being sold in retail stores. At the center of the loss of these computers is the award by DepEd of a 667 million contract in 2021 to logistics provider Cargo Logistics Incorporated, or Transpac. It's a small logistics company based in Las Piñas, Metro Manila, whose subcontractors sold laptops that belong to DepEd, a source Transpac's logistics operations said. Equally responsible is DepEd itself, which, at the transition of the Duterte and Marcos administrations, failed to pay its logistics provider, according to a Transpac demand letter obtained by Rappler. The contractor played a critical role in the distribution of public schools of billions worth of public property. While Transpac failed to prevent its subcontractors from selling laptops, DepEd, for its part, moved too slowly to exact accountability and preserve government property paid for with public funds. In October 2022, after investigations were conducted by the Department's Central Visayas Office, at least 100 laptops were discovered to have been sold in a surplus store in Cebu. Red flags were raised then when a buyer in Cebu was looking to purchase a Kobe NBPC 1958 laptop, chanced upon one being sold for only 9,999 at the Mandaue City branch of HMR Trading House, a national surplus store. It would have been a good purchase except that it bore the markings of DepEd property that carried the Kobe brand in cyan blue. At least 4 other similar-looking Kobe NBPC 1958 laptops being sold in another HMR store in Rizal Province were inspected and checked by Rappler against serial numbers of laptops known to have been supplied to DepEd. We confirmed them to be laptops intended for public school teachers. When asked several times in December 2022 how many DepEd laptops were sold in HMR, company executives declined to respond to Rappler's queries. According to a contract Rappler obtained, a computer laboratory package that consisted of a laptop, smart TV, and lapel cost $53,365. An uninformed source familiar with the pricing pegged the unit price of a laptop at about $27,600 9,780, almost triple the 9,999 selling price in the market. In December 2, the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee wrapped up its investigation into separate mess. The 2.4 billion worth of outdated and overpriced laptops flagged by the Commission on Audit. The Senate panel found that the deal was overpriced by at least 979 million. Multi-billion DepEd computerization. These two instances are not the first time for DepEd to be caught in the crosshairs of controversy, but the sale of government property in a surplus shop begged for an explanation. Multi-billion DepEd computerization program. Computerization in public schools is not a recent development. As early as 2004, the DepEd, under the administration of Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, already had in place a computerization program for public schools. In June 2010, under the Benigno Aquino III administration, guidelines for the implementation of what was called the Department of Education Computerization Program, DCP, was released. This multi-billion peso annual initiative aimed to improve access to the technology by thousands of public school teachers across the Philippines, empowering them to meet the challenges of the 21st century. A decade later, in 2020, also the year when a strict and severe pandemic lockdown was declared by then President Rodrigo Duterte, as many as 11,495 public schools had been eyed as DCP beneficiaries. Invitations to bid were issued by DepEd that same year to provide, among others, laptops to mobile teachers and computer laboratory packages to secondary schools. Contracts were signed in February 2021 with deliveries expected by end of 2021 until January of 2022. The 2020 DCB package contracts were worth almost as much as the 2.4 billion regular Dell laptop deals, amounting to about 2.34 billion pesos. The DCP contracts allocated 1 billion for the purchase and distribution of Kobe laptops and other gadgets. In the past, DCP suppliers took charge of delivering their products directly to public school across the country. Schools had no choice but to accept what was delivered to them, even if these were defective. A Rappler source with first-hand knowledge about the procurement process said that when suppliers would deliver direct to schools, there were instances when, owing to lack of quality control, schools ended up with items like chairs and tables that were different from what they were supposed to receive. The problem of delayed deliveries and lack of accountability have been long-running problems of the DCP program, too, according to the Commission on Audit's 2020 report. According to the same COA audit, only 7,555 or 16.29% of the 38,827 revised targets of the DCP packages for the years 2018 to 2020 were delivered. Enlisting a third-party logistics provider became a DepEd solution to this problem. So under then Education Secretary Leonor Briones, they decided to help ensure better control of what is delivered by putting up regional warehouses where the supplier will now be asked to deliver, the same source said. Multiple projects. In October of 2021, DepEd contracted a logistics service provider to store various supplies and equipments in regional warehouses spread across the country to deliver them to public schools. DepEd's Bids and Awards Committee issued a notice of award for the 671 million call-off contracts to Transpac on September 8, 2021. This type of contract allows a government agency to award a supplier multiple projects without having to hold multiple biddings. The contract not only put Transpac in charge of warehousing and distribution of laptops, but also tasked the contractor with the deliveries of classroom furniture, technical, vocational, livelihood, science, and math equipment. The chairperson of the Bids and Awards Committee at that time was Undersecretary Elaine Pasqua, the same DepEd official who, along with other ranking education officials, was put in the hot seat for signing off on the procurement of the overpriced Dell laptops. In a text message to Rappler on March 6, Pasqua, however, said that the problem with transfer arose from the implementation of the contract that got caught in the middle of the transition of administrations. I am no longer aware of the decisions and policies of the new and present administration. The former undersecretary defended the award to Transpac, saying he did not believe there was anything anomalous about the contract, but a number of schools never received their laptops, even over a year after the lockdowns ended. One such school was in the province of Guimaras, a mostly rural and small island off the coast of Iloilo. One public school teacher told Rappler they waited patiently for a DCP package worth 50,000 to arrive, but it never did. Unable to wait for their computers that didn't seem to be coming, teachers resorted to taking loans to be able to get their own laptops. Puro utang ito. Hanggang ngayon, binabayaran pa. The teacher, who did not want to be identified, said the laptops were the same ones they used during the lockdowns. To get a rough idea of just how many laptops did not make it to their intended schools, a Rappler obtained the full list of the 11,495 schools that were supposed to receive them and did an informal survey. Making 646 calls to schools, 32 different provinces, and 7 different regions from northern and central Luzon and all of the Visayas region. Rappler focuses in formal survey on provinces whose schools were assigned the KUBI DCP packages. Of the 646 calls made, 139 answered. Of the 139 who answered, at least 30 schools, or about 22% of the schools surveyed by Rappler, said they did not receive their DCP laptops. The incidents of the lost DepEd laptops mirror violations of the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act, also known as Republic Act 1319. The department under the Duterte administration chose a service provider that proved incapable of fulfilling its contractual obligations that resulted in the massive waste of public funds. Section 3 of RA 1319 explicitly forbids a public official from entering on behalf of government into any contract or transaction manifestly and grossly disadvantageous to the same, whether or not the public officer profited or will profit from this. The same law regards as corruption, neglect, or refusal by a government official to act within a reasonable time or any matter pending before him to obtain material benefit or advantage, or for the purpose of favoring his own interest or giving undue advantage to any other interested party. While TEPED sought to solve delivery problems of the past from the past by getting a third party to handle logistics, it wound up creating a different set of problems for itself. This article is to be concluded with research by Alila de la Cruz of Rappler.com. Next, part 2, the tiny logistics firms bags 667 million DepEd deal and fails to deliver. Abangan po natin yung susunod na update nitong balitang ito from Rappler. On to our global news. On to our global headlines. Explosion derails freight train in Russian border region. News is supplied by Reuters to Rappler. An explosion in the Russian region bordering Ukraine derailed the freight train on Monday, May 1. The local governor said in a social media post, adding there were no casualties. Pictures shared on the social media showed several tank carriages laying on their side and dark gray smoke billowing into the air at the site of the derailment in the Bryansk region. Russian Railways, the country's rail operator, said the incident occurred at 10:17 Moscow time, 1700 GMT time. It said the locomotive and 7 freight wagons were derailed and the locomotive caught fire. An unidentified explosive device went off at the 136-kilometer mark of the Bryansk-Unetsha railway line, derailing a freight train. Bryansk Governor Alexander Bogomaz said in a post in his Telegram channel. Russian authorities say the region, which borders both Ukraine and Belarus, has seen multiple attacks by pro-Ukrainian sabotage groups in the 14 months since Russia invaded. On Sunday, the governor said 4 civilians died after Kyiv shelled a village just across the border. The site of the incident, as indicated by the governor, is around 60 kilometers or 37 miles north of Russia's border with Ukraine. He did not say who was responsible for the attack. Separately, the governor of Russia's Leningrad region near St. Petersburg said a power line had been blown up overnight and an explosive device found near a second line. Governor Alexander Drozdenko posted photos of destroyed power lines and metal supporters on his Telegram page on Monday morning. He said Russia's FSB, Federal Security Service, is working on the site and did not say who he believed was responsible for the incident. And our next global news. Pope says Vatican involved in secret Ukraine peace mission. News is supplied by Reuters via Rappler. The Vatican is involved in a peace mission to try to end the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, Pope Francis said on Sunday, April 30, adding it was also ready to help repatriate Ukrainian children taken to Russia or Russian-occupied land. There is a mission in course now, but it's not yet public. When it is public, I will reveal it. The Pope told reporters during a flight home after a 3-day visit to Hungary. I think that peace is always made by opening channels. You can never achieve peace through closure. This is not easy. The Pope added that he had spoken about the situation in Ukraine with Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban and with Metropolitan Bishop Hilarion, a representative of the Russian Orthodox Church in Budapest. In these meetings, we did not just talk about Little Red Riding Hood. We spoke of all these things. Everyone is interested in the road to peace, he said. Since Russia invaded Ukraine in February of 2022, Francis has pleaded for peace practically on a weekly basis, and he has repeatedly expressed a wish to act as a broker between Kiev and Moscow. His offer has so far failed to produce any breakthrough. Pope Francis, 86, has said previously that he wants to visit Kiev but also Moscow on a peace mission. Ukraine Prime Minister Denis Shimal met the Pope at the Vatican on Thursday and said he had discussed a peace formula put forward by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Shimal also asked for help in the repatriation of children. Kiev estimates nearly 19,500 children have been taken to Russia or Russian-occupied Crimea since Moscow invaded in February last year, in what it condemns as illegal deportations. Who is to do this? Help repatriate the children. It is the right thing to play. All human gestures help, but gestures of cruelty don't help. We have to do all that is humanly possible. Francis, who appeared in a relatively good condition during the trip, also spoke of his health following his hospitalization in late March for what the Vatican said at that time was bronchitis. He said he felt a strong pain at the end of the general audience on Wednesday, March 29, and tried to sleep. I did not lose consciousness, but I had a high fever, and at 3 p.m. the doctor took me to the hospital right away, he said. It was a strong and acute pneumonia in the lower section of the lung. Thank God I can talk about it. The body responded well to the treatment. Thank God, he said. He was released on April 1st. A part of one of his lungs was removed when he was young, when he was a young man in Argentina a year ago. The Pope said there were no plans to go to Lisbon in August for an international youth gathering, and then separately in Mars and Mongolia. And for a regional Canlaon shows increased gas emission by Eugene Y. Adyong of the Manila Times. City. The Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, or PHIVOLCS, monitored a sudden increase in volcanic gas being emitted by the Canlaon in Negros Island. In an advisory, PHIVOLCS reported that the sulfur dioxide emission at the volcano over the past few days. On Sunday, April 30th, PHIVOLCS recorded 1,099 tons of gas emission, the highest value recorded this year, and higher compared to its average of 24 tons per day since March of this year. According to the United States Geological Survey, a sudden increase in sulfur dioxide emission means that the volcano's magma is relatively near the surface. From April 1 to 30 of this year, FIB recorded 141 volcanic earthquakes at Canlaon for an average of 5 per day. Volcanologists from PHIVOX explain that the earthquakes occur at shallow depths, roughly 10 kilometers from the surface. Ground deformation data also showed short-term inflation of the lower and middle slopes since March this year, indicating slow pressurization within the volcano. Despite the sudden increased activity, Fox said in its advisory that Canlaon remains on alert level 1 status, meaning people are still prohibited entering the volcano's 4-kilometer permanent danger zone radius. PHIVOX also told the Civil Aviation Authority of the Philippines to advise pilots to avoid flying close to the volcano summit as any ejecta from a sudden phreatic eruption is hazardous to aircraft. Town located at the border of Negros Occidental and Negros Oriental, the highest peak in the Visayas with an elevation of 2,465 meters. The volcano launched December 2017 and has been under an alert level 1 status since 2020. And for next regional headlines from the north, forest fires a big problem in Benguet, a report by Dexter AC of the Manila Times. La Trinidad, Benguet. More than 172 hectares of forest lands, grasslands, and watershed reservation in different parts of the province have been damaged by 52 incidents of non-structural during the first quarter of this year. Benguet Provincial Fire Marshal Jesse Anasio said that the affected areas this year are 3 times larger compared to the 250 hectares recorded in the same period last year. He disclosed that among identified causes of the non-structural fire incidents that transpired in the different forest lands and watershed reservations in the province include open flame from farmlands or agricultural land clearing operations, popularly known as slash and burn farming, children with matchsticks and lighters, and open flame from rubbish or bonfires. Anasio added that numerous newly planted tree seedlings in the various burned forest lands and watershed reservations were destroyed during these fire incidents. Anasio, however, expressed his gratitude to the various firefighters from the different parts of the province for their support to the Benguet Provincial Fire Station in containing the fire incidents over the past several months. He pointed out that people in slash and burn type of farming should take all necessary precautions to prevent the fire from their farms from getting out of control and torching away nearby tree stands. These incidents really affect the efforts to preserve and protect the environment. Anasio urged the public to put premium on the efforts to allow the newly planted trees to grow so that the present generation will be able to pass on to the generations a good state of the environment for them to enjoy the fruits of a well protected environment. Moving on to sports. Reyes Wari of Indonesia by Joaquin Henson of the Philippine Star. Former PBA import and Indonesia's naturalized player, Lester Prosper, is tempering expectations on team's chances to retain the men's basketball gold medal in the coming SEA Games, with key pieces from the 2020 edition absent. But Gilas coach Chot Reyes isn't about to bring down his guard. Indonesia recently went on a 20-day training tour in Australia, winning 4 of 8 games. Coach Milos Pejic's squad beat Southwest Metro 84-74, Red City Education 69-62, Southern District Spartans 113-90, and Illawarra Hawks 89-81, while losing to Logan Thunder 104-90, Waverly Falcons 92-88, Ballarat Miners 77-71, and Sutherland Sharks 93-89. Three players who were instrumental in Indonesia's victory in Hanoi won't be available for Cambodia. Derek Xaviero, a 6'10 center, went down with a collapsed lung last December and underwent 2 surgeries in a 7-week hospital confinement during his redshirt season at Grand Canyon University in Phoenix. He lost 40 pounds and has regained 18, but will only resume playing this summer. Xaviero had 14 points and 7 rebounds when Indonesia beat the Philippines 85-81 for the 2021 SEA Games gold. The two other missing Indonesians are 6'10 naturalized player Marquez Bolden, recovering from a shoulder injury, and Abraham Grahita, who's seeing action for Beltex Shizuka in the Japanese B-League D2. Bolden scored 18 points and Grahita 17 in the win over Gilas. Seattle Basketball Secretary General Agus Mauro, who was in town for the FIBA World Cup draw last weekend, said Indonesia will be led by Prosper, Anthony Bean, Dame Dayan in Cambodia. There's no limit to enlist naturalized for as long as they produce passports, so Indonesia's lineup include Prosper, Bian, and Dayan. And for our final sports update from the NBA, Curry's Warriors versus LeBron's Lakers. News supplied by Agence France Press to the Philippine Star. Sacramento. Stephen Curry's 50 points in a record-shattering performance Sunday to send the defending champion Golden State Warriors into the second round of NBA playoffs, while a Jimmy Butler ankle injury raised tensions for the triumphant Miami Heat. Curry, a four-time NBA champion and two-time NBA Most Valuable Player, was nearly unstoppable as the Warriors won 120-100 at Sacramento to capture their best of 7 Western Conference Series 4-3. The Warriors next face LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers in a Western Conference semifinal matchup starting on Tuesday. Golden State faced a James-led Cleveland in 4 straight NBA Finals, winning 3 of. I just wanted to come out and look for shots early. get my teammates going throughout the game, Curry said. But when I'm looking for shots, it usually works in our favor. The 35-year-old guard delivered an incredible performance, hitting 20 of a career-high 38 shot attempts and going 7 of 18 from three-point range and 3 of 5 from the free throw line. Curry's 50 points were a career playoff high and the most points in any NBA Game 7, breaking the old mark of 48 set by Kevin Durant for Brooklyn in a 2021 loss to Milwaukee. In Sunday's other playoff contest, Butler scored 25 points and grabbed 11 rebounds to lead Miami over the host New York Knicks 108-101. In their Eastern Conference second-round opener, but suffered a right ankle injury. The series continues Tuesday at New York, but Butler's status will steal the spotlight until then. No idea, head coach Eric Spoelstra said. We just don't know with ankle sprains. I don't even know if we will know more by tomorrow. And that concludes our news update for today, May 2, 2023, Tuesday. So ano po muna tayo? Shout out po muna sa mga nanood. Thank you very much for joining me this morning. Si Admin Marisol Amurao, kay classmate Dong Mapanaw, kay brother Sunny Malyari, kay Peterson Malyari, kay Tita Paz Ginakaran, I was watching. Thank you, Tita Paz. Nakakalungkot, may confidential funds na ipinasa ang Congress para sa DepEd. Ngayon nasa busa na corrupt na mga magnanakaw na politiko habang ang mga kawawang guro ang nagsasakripisyo sa mga gamit na kailangan sa pagtuturo. Hope these officials will vanish soon. Ay, salamat po, Tita Pa, sa inyong comment. Sana I also share your sentiment, no? Sana po mabigyan ng hustisya o madala sa hustisya yung mga corrupt officials po na nagnakaw na mga equipment para sa mga teachers, mga guro ng DepEd. Roderick Mohon, o si Derek is also watching. Magandang umaga sa iyo, Derek. Si Brother Edwin is also watching. Good morning, bro. Good morning sa iyo. And Carmi Rose is also watching. Good morning po. Thanks for joining me. And Ate Julie Santos is also watching. Magandang umaga po. Maraming salamat po sa pagsali nyo sa akin, pagsama nyo sa akin ngayong umagang ito, pagantabay ninyo sa aking pagbabalita. At magkasama-sama po ulit tayo bukas para sa regular programming ng Magsaga sa Buhay. Sama-sama natin harapin. Sa
buhay. Laging may pagsubok na dumarating, Diyos ang patuloy natin. Lahat ng hirap ngayon, pagkakatasan ay pasapat na lang. Pag-asa ay darating, mag-ibig, sisikap na ang tiwala sa dilim. Magsasaka, magpapakit, sa hamon ng buhay, di ba magkatino? Ako ang iyong kasama, kaibigan, sa ating kapapatayan. Magsasaka, magpapakit, amat ng buhay at magpapakit. Tayo ay magkasama, kaibigan, sa ating kapapatayan. Magsasaka,